People keep asking how to hook the Fireboard Drive up to the 980, so I thought I'd show you. All you need is a 2.5 by 5.5 millimeter cable connector. See, this is cable 5.5 by 2.5. They come in all kinds of different lengths. Get one that's 2 feet or longer. You can cut it. Depending on how you want to hook it up, you may need needle nose pliers, connectors, and some male or female adapters. 2 options. The 980 is just 2 wires, black and red. This is your wiring harness that goes to the fan. These are the door switches. You can just unplug this from your controller. You don't need that connector anymore. You can just ignore it. All you need is that red wire and that black wire. And that connects to that red wire and that black wire. If you're not going to use your 980 controller anymore, you can just hardwire those two together. Just strip them and solder them or tape them or whatever. Put wire nuts on them or whatever works for you. Soldering would be best. And then you can just plug that barrel plug into your Fireboard and you're done. That's it. So just hook those two, that black to black and red to red, and you're done. If you don't want to direct wire this connector right into your 980 and you want to be able to use the 980 controller interchangeably with the Fireboard 2, that's how mine is set up. You can absolutely do that. You just have to make an adapter like this. Basically, this is just a Molex connector, and you're going to have to replace these Molex connectors on your controller as well, because it's super unlikely that you could find exactly that connector. Maybe you'll get lucky, but I just cut it off and put new connectors on both sides. You're going to only use, again, you're still only using your red and black wire. So red wire on one side, black wire on the other side. The Molex connectors are pretty simple to use. Basically, you have a male side and a female side, and they're called that for pretty obvious reasons, and they just connect together. You also have the pins, the wire pins on the inside. You have a male pin and a female pin. So when you assemble these, if you think of it, it's not the end of the world, but it would make more sense to put the female pins on the female side and the male pins on the male side. Just make sure you use male and female pins, otherwise it's not going to work out very good. And just like the Molex connectors, these just push into each other once this is all assembled. So to make this easier, one thing you can do, well, these little tabs right here in the back, these 2 tabs, they twist on to crimp onto the wire casing itself. And then these tabs up here crimp down to the wire itself. If you want to make it easier to put together, you can do one of 2 things. You can go to the store and you can buy a $35 or $40 tool that'll crimp these for you. Or you can just grab these tabs, and I like to just pre-bend them a little bit. You don't have to get carried away, but just get them started bending toward each other. And that's going to make your life a whole lot easier when you go to crimp that wire in. Don't over crimp it though before you put your insulation in, because it makes it painful. And these as well, they just bend in. These as well, they just bend in toward each other. And I just like to just give them a little bit of a start, because it'll make this simpler when you go to collapse the whole thing. Notice my wires magically changed colors, and this one's incredibly short. Well, that's because I screwed it up the first time, and it's easy to do. Just take your time with this, and it'll work. Just take your time with it. So get your wire inserted in there. Again, you want these tabs on the insulation, these tabs on the wire itself. So make sure your insulation is pushed down. Make sure your insulation is pushed down in there. And then when you do bend these, make sure your wire is sticking down in there, right? When you do crimp these down, you want to kind of go straight down instead of across, so that you leave enough wire or enough room for this other tab to fold over it. So just kind of pinch it straight down. Then grab the other side and just kind of rotate it across, squeeze it down. Grab this side, and again, take your time with it. Just kind of rotate it across, just like that. And you have about what you want. just squeeze it down. Then break that off, and if you want to break it off before that, that's fine. You can see that's pretty solid. I'm pulling on it pretty hard. Then you just make sure you line this up, so you know you want red on one side and black on the other, and so that you want to put red on the same side and black on the same side. So this is the female Molex connector, and so you just take this is the female pin, and you just push it in there, and it will just go in and push it in until it clicks in place. There. And then it's a solid connection. That's all there is to it. Those two tabs just hold it in place. So then you plug the adapter into the 3-wire harness. I hooked this yellow wire into the center one, not because I needed to, but just because I wanted it to look cleaner. Just ignore that. Make sure you go black to black and red to red on your connector. Plug it into your Fireboard, and you're done. This is called a male and this is called a female for relatively obvious reasons. So what the actual fuck? Oh my god, you idiot. And crimp it down. And I've done better lots of times. In fact, that's my worst one ever.